Morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Mission43 Podcast. I'm your host and Mission43 Director, Dan McGurkin. Today, I'm joined with Mr. Zach Tibbits, who is our Employment Director for Mission43, and we're here at the Idaho Outdoor Fieldhouse, which is just an awesome chance to get to come into the facility and talk a little bit about that, which we'll get into. But Zach, why don't you just, for the folks who don't know you, kind of reintroduce yourself, what you do here, and kind of how you got here, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm Zach. I am first of all, a husband, father, and Marine Corps veteran. I am the senior program manager of our Idaho program at Hire Heroes USA, which fortunately enough also makes me the employment director here at Mission 43. Collectively, I've been on the team for, I think, 7 years, coming up on 7 years total. I took a little bit of a break in service and tried my hand at corporate America away from the nonprofit world for a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was great at the time, but I realized some things about myself that I still had more in me to give back to the veteran community and the military spouse community. So in the it must have been 2021 timeframe, reached back out to my former supervisor, saw if there's any chance for me to get back on the team, and fortunately enough, it got me back here, and I've been doing this role for 5 years and have loved every second of it.
Yeah, it's good, man. I mean, I guess, maybe the first place I'd go, because we talk a lot, like with Mission 43, there are a lot of things we try to do for folks to help our vets and spouses who feel like they've got more to do, more to give. And the job is one of the first things that usually comes up, right? And, we try to facilitate that through our relationship with Hire Heroes USA. And I think it would be good if you wouldn't mind just talking a little bit about, like, what is the relationship with Hire Heroes USA, Mission 43, how that works, and what does Hire Heroes USA do? Like what is the total remit and menu of stuff that people end up getting access to by a function of reaching out via Mission 43 to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So just broad level, Hire Heroes USA is a nationwide nonprofit that specializes in world-class service to help people find meaningful careers after the military. So whether that be a transitioning service member, a military spouse preparing for transition for their family, or they've been out for 20 plus years, we're here to help them find, what that next chapter looks like. And we do that through personalized career coaching. So, a lot of people in the civilian world will hire a career coach to help them prep their resume, prep for interviews, those things. We do that for free to our nation's veterans and military spouses. We do that through a personalized approach. We've refined it over the years, and we found that starting everything off with a resume revision and teaching, that person who came to us and asked for help how to tailor their resume, how to optimize their resume, is a really great starting point. And then from there, it opens up the box of resources. So whether that be talking to an industry volunteer who can act as a mentor for you, or doing a LinkedIn revision, or, just talking through some of the struggles of the job search, having someone in your corner really helps. And then on the Mission 43 side, which we are lucky enough to do state-specific work here in Idaho, myself and our program manager, Micah, we're able to take that personalized approach and fine-tune it even a little bit more by helping them create a network of, employers that want to hire the people that we're working with. They see the value in hiring a veteran or military spouse outside of just, the tangibles. They see the intangibles, the work ethic, the discipline, the dynamic leadership that they bring, their experience and how it elevates their organization. We connect them to those people.
Right. Yeah, I think that's something I've noticed that you and now Micah do a great job of. Is it's almost you help the veterans and spouses tailor and translate that resume, and oftentimes on the veteran side, it's one of those things that just doesn't come natural.
Yeah.
You're just so rote memorization when it comes to like military speak and how you articulate what you did, and it's difficult. I mean, it's kind of a cliche to say because so many people, we all know it, but it is still hard.
Well, it's a different language.
Yeah, it's a totally different language. But you do a good job of also playing that translation role to our employers, right, and articulating what the value is when it comes to a veteran or military spouse who brings these like specifically the intangible stuff, right, like the work ethic and those kind of things. When someone, someone's listening to this or reaches out and they click that they're hopeful for employment services through Mission 43 and Hire Heroes USA, what is the process? Like, what happens? Like, where do they go? Like, what journey do they start down? Like, what happens next, and how does it happen?
Yeah, we show up at your doorstep and say, "Hey, you want a job?"
Yeah, that's great. Kidding. That's why it works so well. People like that. Yeah.
We need your address. No, so you'll get an email from us that is asking you to, schedule a time to chat with us so that we can get the full picture before you get to Hire Heroes. So we want to explain what that whole process looks like, the benefits of working with us, and, what resources are going to be made available, and so that we have a full picture of what your next 90 days are going to look like. So we ask, what does your timeline look like? Are you looking for a job right now, or are you looking for a job next year? What are your salary expectations? Those types of things, so that our wheels can start to turn on the employers that we can connect you with. Maybe I had a HR manager from a local company reach out and say, "Hey, Zach, we're looking for a project manager for XYZ function. This is the pay. Do you guys have anyone looking for something like that?" Mm-hmm. Of course we do. We absolutely do. And we'll send them, 5-6 qualified candidates. And, we can talk about that process later. But they'll get a personalized outreach from us to explain the whole process, make sure they're comfortable with everything. And then from there, they'll get a link to register for Hire Heroes USA. It's vital that they register with Hire Heroes USA so that they unlock, all the resources we talked about a few minutes ago. So that's kind of the kickstart to everything, and it can take, different avenues from there. The thing that works the best is keeping in contact with us the best, because that's how we keep everyone up to date on the employers we're working with, what we're seeing in the job market, mistakes that we've made or see people make. We can coach on that. Yeah,
and I think that's a question, we get is like, what is I would just say, I think that the thing that you get by, seeking some employment assistance via Mission 43, other than just on your own, is what you're really getting is you and Micah as that connecting file between your state-specific support, which is us at Mission 43, and you guys who are connecting them with the Hire Heroes USA resources, which they have access to. But you guys are the person, the real person that they can see your face right now, or in the future, or on the website, and they can talk to you and reach out and have a phone call with you at any point in the job search process, or in the in that entire journey of seeking a new job or trying to get a leg up.
So, you just get more in your corner, which that's what today's job search is having, more people in your network and in your corner. That's what's going to set you apart, because, I don't know if we're going to get into this in a second, but the job search is different than when I started this job 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Everything has been dynamic and changed and evolved, and we try to stay on top of all of that.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I wanted to ask, you talk about timeline a little bit. I think it's a really important one, because I've noticed, being like the type of veterans and spouses who Mission 43 resonates with are oftentimes, they're go-getters. They want to be leaning forward into this stuff. And for the transitioning folks, whether it's a military spouse whose spouse is retiring out of the service, or if it's the veteran themselves, they feel this drive to start the job search early.
Yeah.
And what is the time? Like, I think it's important to set expectations on, like, how far out is the job search productive versus how far out am I just doom scrolling openings that I am way too far out from being able to apply to.
That's very realistic, because we get people from time to time who are 4 years out, and it's like, that's an entire enlistment. Like, that would be me at boot camp reaching out saying, "Hey, I'm going to be a veteran in 4 years. Please help me." That it's not worthwhile. Like you said, you just be doom scrolling and setting yourself up for failure. So I suggest, that year and a half mark, depending on, how long your career's been, also depends. So if someone's retiring, I always say, a year and a half out, just so we can get the ball rolling. We can start to fine tune the resume, start to build that network a little bit. I've seen people coming from like the East Coast, at commands on the East Coast, and they know they want to come back to Idaho. They'll take PTO and come to a Mission 43 happy hour to rub elbows with the great folks who come into this place, the field house, to, start to build that network. And that's what works really well. So it really depends on how long your career was. If you were like me, you waited until a year after you got out. I'm a product of Mission 43 and the services. You waited till and don't do that. That's one of the first things that I'll tell, especially the junior enlisted crowd like myself, the E4s and below. You got to reach out, at least 6 to 9 months before, just to get the ball rolling. So, kind of a long answer to your question. It really just depends, but at least a year.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a good way to look at it. Is if you're thinking about these things a year out, and you're and you have someone you've done the process, you have someone in your corner.
Yeah.
I would just offer too that in the end, it is like you are driving the train as someone who is looking for your next employment opportunity. Mm-hmm. Zach or Micah is in your corner. You are hopefully having other mentors and people in your corner, and you're trying to build your network. Yeah. But you're driving that train, and these are people who are trying to help you end up at whatever station you're hopeful for.
100%.
But it's, it is ultimately, it takes that level of all the things you get in the service as far as discipline and goal setting and achieving those things. But you just have to take those and apply those to the job search in a way that's healthy. Because I've definitely seen a lot of, especially like retiring veterans, like a retiring like field grade officer or something, who is, maybe a year and a half out, and it can very quickly devolve into, like an unhealthy look at like you're just creating way too many alternate futures for yourself.
100%.
And I think when you get to that point is the right point where you need to come back and have another conversation with you or Micah and just get back to a place that feels better and like, okay, what's healthy for me to focus on right now versus what am I just going to spin my wheels on endlessly here?
Absolutely. Yeah. And keeping in mind that the people that I've seen most successful in our program, in our resource paths, are the ones who remember that they are the driver of the train, that they're conducting everything. I'm here to help in any way that I can. Mike is here to help in any way she can. And, everyone at Higher Heroes is here to help in any way that we can. But there has to be ownership. The people that I've seen be the most successful in the job search take complete ownership of their job search and realize that at the end of the day, like, I can't apply to jobs for you.
Right.
I can be a conduit and introduce you to people who want to hire you, but I can't fill out your application for you. I can't interview for you. We can do mock interviews, and we can prep that way, but you have to take ownership of it. And I do see that with the people who are reaching out, a year and a half in advance. They realize that hey, I need to start prepping for this now, so that when it comes game day and I pick up that glorious DD 214, I'm ready to go. And every path is different, but ownership is very important.
Is key. Yeah. Let's so you've been doing this for how many years now?
Collectively coming up on 7 years.
7 years. So a lot's probably changed.
Yeah.
But what have you learned? Like, what are the themes? What do you see over and over again? What do you try to, give us an idea of like, what have you taken
First thing
away?
that came to mind when you asked me that is 7 years ago, whatever it was, applicant tracking system horrors and myths were like the big thing. Like, right? Like, a human's not going to see your resume unless you tailor it perfectly, and keyword optimization, all these things.
So you're getting screened by the robot.
Exactly. Yeah. Is that important to tailor your resume? 1000% yes. But I've learned it's for a different reason. I had a conversation with a great employer yesterday. They came, here to the field house, and they just blatantly said, like, we're not using keyword optimization. We are looking at every resume. And I was like, well, what if you get like 150 applications? Like, no, we look at every resume. And so I put myself in their shoes, and it's like, if I am reading a resume, I've been a hiring manager before, and if I'm reading a resume, I want to see that the person put in the time and effort to tailor the resume to that job. Does it need to be, nitpicky all the way down to the keyword optimization and tailoring it for the ATS, applicant tracking system? To a certain degree, yes, because you don't want to, self-select out. But show that you did your research, and show that you did, you have the transferable skills from your old role to this new job you're applying for. That's why you tailor your resume. So that's one, the applicant tracking system, horror stories and myths. Do some organizations use them? Yes. here in Idaho, you know, it's a little bit different. You know, we still have the human aspect of the job search.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I still hear people say that all the time. People
Yeah.
get like a little tip like, oh, what if you put it in size 0 font and hide it? You know, it's like, is that like, that's not a productive
Yeah.
way to like go about
No,
your
it's
job
not.
search. Like, what are you
No.
doing? Like, this
Yeah.
isn't a, you know.
Yeah. I had a conversation with them as well about, I just blatantly asked them, what are your pet peeves in a resume?
Yeah.
They said, don't put a picture on there. I don't want to see your headshot on your resume. Keep it all uniform font and, you know, show that it was tailored a little bit.
Right.
Because, I mean, the amount of people who get into the job search and they're applying for a high volume of jobs and they're using the same resume, sometimes you forget to take it from the old company you applied to and there's old information in there.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you just self-selected out. Like,
Right.
that's a no-go.
Yeah, that's obviously like you're not.
So
paying
taking your
attention.
time and effort is something I've learned is very valuable. The next thing would be, I knew this a little bit going into it, but I've learned it more and, you know, really hammer on it now, is networking is everything. You have to have a network of people in your corner that, you know, want to help out. And you can be selective with your network, right? You know, not every veteran service organization, you know, needs to have services with them.
Right.
Being selective about that and being adamant about and strategic about it is very important. So networking and resume optimization are two big things that I've learned.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just tell you, like, I think people come to Mission 43 seeking employment services, and obviously they need a hand up here, right? Like,
For sure.
They just need some help with that. I have seen more employment success, and this is why I think your guys' roles are so valuable, when, you know, you come for employment services, but you end up coming to the happy hour, the coffee hour, the trail maintenance event, whatever it is. And like, I've seen more people have success, you know, finding their next thing in conversations at the coffee bar at the field house here after a workout.
Absolutely.
Than I have, you know,
Just applying for jobs,
blindly applying for
you know,
things.
the shotgun approach of hoping for the best. You couldn't be more accurate on that, Dan.
Yeah.
Coming to a place like this that was built for things like that. This place was, you know, built to have meaningful conversations for veterans and create a community and that camaraderie. Because if you have, you know, someone from the Leaders Fellowship who, you know, is a director at XYZ company, and they know that they have a program manager opening coming up, and they want another veteran on the team, and they've been working out with that veteran who, you know, maybe just transitioned and has a great background. They're very personable. They met him at the field house. I would be willing to bet they're going to put in a pretty solid word to their boss that, hey, we should probably we should look into this guy or this gal and see what value they could bring to our company. That's the magic recipe right there.
Yeah, and then as the person seeking the job, I mean, it feels much better stepping into a new role with a new organization and a new phase of life when you trust and know at least one person that is on that team, right? Like you're going to feel way better than just doing this blind application to companies that
and
you
already
think
have a mentor there.
Yeah.
You have, you know, an ally in your corner on someone you can go and ask maybe, you know, questions you want to ask in confidence, those types of things. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. When does the matchup between, you know, education and employment happen? Like when have you seen, you know, in the last 7 years, like when does somebody need to go back and shore up some like hard certifications or degrees type stuff on their resume before they start looking at the opportunities they're hopeful
absolutely.
for? Like,
if the job description asks for it, like this might hurt some feelings, but sometimes your military experience isn't going to trump having a graduate degree.
Yeah.
Like there's just there's not a lot of gray area there anymore. Are there anomalies because, you know, someone is so talented or they had such specific experience that it can change that? Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you're applying to St. Luke's to be an emergency room nurse, and, you know, you were like me, you did logistics in the Marine Corps, and you don't have a nursing degree, I'm going to say probably we need to look back into school.
Yeah.
We might want to look back into a nursing degree. But also professional certifications are, you know, there's some that are worth their weight in gold, and there's some that are like, you know, sure, go ahead and get it. It's going to look good on the resume. It's just knowing it all starts with goal setting, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to know what your end state is and what your end goal is. If you don't know that, being on Indeed and LinkedIn all day can get pretty nauseating pretty quick because you don't know. So I always ask people, I'll say like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like, I don't really know. It's like, okay, well, I have a better question for you. What don't you want to be doing?
Yeah.
And sometimes being able to say no to things is just as powerful as a yes.
Yeah.
So if they know they don't want to be a firefighter or a cop or a landscape technician or a program manager, okay, let's knock all those things off the list and let's go back to the drawing board and see what's still on there.
Yeah.
And process of elimination. So, long-winded way to say when it's time to go back to school is if your end goal has a degree requirement, there's not going to be a lot of ways to get around that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the thing that is always worth having the conversation before you make a bigger decision to go back to school, and obviously certification versus degree is there's a big difference there as far as time commitment, resources, whatever. The one that I hope that people do their due diligence on is not doing it out of a sense of like imposter syndrome. I think that there are a lot of veterans and spouses who will be like, well, it's either been a long time since I was in the civilian workforce, or I haven't worked in this field in a long time, and or they'll just be, I've never, for whatever reason, they think I need to get this thing to feel comfortable enough to be trying to operate in X industry. Yeah. That's not always the case, and we have the ability to connect via the Mission 43 community with people where you can just have that. It's not a networking employment cup of coffee. It's just a cup of coffee about like, hey, here's my background. I'm wondering if I need to go get XYZ certification or whatever before I start launching in. And they'll give you, in 5-10 minutes, you can find out and save yourself either a ton of time, ton of money, or find out that this is something that you need to go do, and it would be a huge leg up, right? But don't let that imposter syndrome like drive you just to search out, the next certification or thing that you think is going to set yourself up. I don't know if that resonates at all. But.
No, yeah, absolutely. One thing that I've learned recently, this kind of circles back to your last question and adds something to this one. It's okay to get out of the military and hit a base hit and land, maybe you didn't get the exact dream job that you thought you were going to get, but you're getting exposure into the industry and job function that you're looking for.
Yeah.
The amount of people that I've seen get out and land a job, it's great, and they stay at that job for longer than 5 years, it's pretty slim. Myself included, I fell flat on my face. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I worked a couple dead-end jobs and luckily got to where I'm at now. But, hitting a base hit and getting some exposure, building up that resume, that's very important.
Yeah.
Clear and, realistic expectations are conversations that we have pretty often.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little uncomfortable, but that's the point of having a mentor and someone in your corner, right? Is someone who's not afraid to have those a little bit more difficult, uncomfortable conversations.
Right.
It's a lot of sometimes, it's maybe we have a lieutenant colonel or a sergeant major, and it's like, sir, like I'm sorry to say, but you're not quite, you don't have the resume on the civilian side yet for that job.
Yeah.
Sergeant major, so you don't have XYZ experience that they're looking for. Could we translate it into a way that makes sense? Yeah, probably. But let's maybe look at this as a pathway to get to that.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not something that people want to hear, but it's realism. And
yeah, I mean, I think you have to divorce the identity crisis is inevitably roped in the transition, right? So you have to. Your focus, I think, at some level, if you can do this, I think it's important to do something that's fulfilling and that you find joy in and that you want to go to work and feel good about. There's also an element of you're making a decision to transition out of the military to probably at some level to prioritize other things. So the base hit is safe. The base hit is a runner on first. Yep. That means that you are able to support your family, land safely through the transition. You're able to find the house, find the schools, do the things that are going to make sure you guys stand up this new life that you're hopeful for.
Yeah.
And then you have time to maybe steal second later, right? Or
Absolutely.
whatever, right? Like those things come in time, and I think that patience is just the key there. And I don't know, I like to use the military analogy. I always like to say, like, you're not when you go to the rifle range, like you have the bullseye of the target is like what you're shooting for. Like that's the goal. That's the job I want to feel like I took a step forward after my military career.
Yeah.
If I don't hit the bullseye, then I don't get the perfect score. I don't get the expert badge. But really, you just need to end up on the target.
Yeah.
Like you just need to end up somewhere in those rings to be like, okay, I'm on target and I can start, adjusting my windage or whatever to get to where I want to be.
Absolutely.
Right. So
shoot for the moon, land on the stars.
yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I'm a girl dad, so I think of stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Girl dads. Real quick, let's talk a little about something that probably comes up in expectation setting for the job search here in Idaho. Economic realities, what's the job landscape look like? I know we're both native Idahoans, so we have a pretty good sense of it, but people might be watching who might not be as familiar. What type of jobs are here? What have you seen people have success with? What should people be looking at when they're on their way here, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or if they're already here and looking for something new.
Yeah, for sure. Program management, project management, in the tech field, the tech sector. I see a lot of people actually move here with a remote job lined up. They get here, they land in Idaho, they have their remote job. Maybe they're not quite happy with that remote job, but they know that here in Idaho, they're going to have that quality of life. And so then they start to look for a job.
Yeah.
The best time to look for a job is when you have a job.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I always tell people is like, maybe you're not too ecstatic about that job, but let's get something lined up first so that the job search can be really rough. Looking for a job is a full-time job. And so don't quit that job quite yet. Let's press pause and let's, workshop a few things. Let's get the resume squared away. Let's start talking, networking, all that stuff. But jobs here, healthcare is huge. I love working with St. Luke's. They are an incredible employer who they have real live humans on their talent acquisition team that interact with our team. And I do a 3-way email introduction with them. Hey, XYZ, this is John. He just transitioned from the Army. He has, a 4-year degree in this. He has a PMP, has experience doing this, managing this amount of budget. He really likes this project manager job. Would you be able to connect him with the hiring manager? Typically within a couple hours, they'll email me back with a connection for them to talk to at St. Luke's, which that's a massive win for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Because now St. Luke's is talking to our folks, we're talking to St. Luke's, and it's great. So healthcare, tech, specifically program project management within those industries are huge.
What about the outdoors?
I was just going to say, like the outdoor industry as a whole.
Yeah. I think people think that.
Sporting
right?
Goods, like those types of things. There's some really awesome ones here that started in Idaho and have roots in Idaho that have grown. Those are hard to get into, though, because they're ultra competitive because everybody wants that cool job, right? Everybody wants to go to SHOT Show and, be an exhibitor for XYZ company at that. And so it's ultra competitive, but that's where networking comes in, right? A lot of those hiring managers and folks are part of the Mission43 network. They've either interacted with us or, they got their PMP here and now they're, back at their company wanting to give back in some way, shape, or form. So if you come to the happy hour and that hiring manager is here at the happy hour too, you put 2 and 2 together and there's a relationship there. And so the next time that they're hiring for that job, that dream job, when you cold email them or cold call them or shoot them a LinkedIn DM, they remember who you are. They remember your background, what kind of person you are, how you presented yourself, all of those types of things. And then the next thing you know, you're interviewing for that job.
Right.
So all that to say, if you call us, talk to us, more than happy to talk through some of those industries, connections we have in those industries, and how to make the magic happen.
Yeah, I think that's good. And that's a place where having another person to talk to about that specifically would be good. And the other thing I'd say is, they're the part of being in Mission 43 and who ends up here, and it's the motivated person and whatever, but we also need people to, if your industry that you're hopeful for wasn't listed when Zach was just talking, we need people who are looking to start companies and employ
100%.
people, right? And that's where the crossover happens between our employment programming and education programming, right? So we have entrepreneur resources that can help you do that.
And then we have entrepreneurs who are wanting to give back, and once they grow their business, they want to bring veterans on, they want to bring military spouses on. They know exactly where to come find them.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And that's just why it works, and why I think it's so important for folks to get involved here, because I mean it starts as a trail maintenance event, or it starts as a workout, and it ends up, you just never know. You never know how these things can go.
Yep.
We're getting close to time. I need to ask you kind of a big, exciting, ethereal, future-looking. What's the future of this? What's the future of, if you're out there and you're 3 years out from ending your enlistment or your resignation as an officer or retirement, whatever, future for job market. I think also it'd be interesting to hear from you is just like, what's the future of veteran service in the employment side look like? As you go to a lot of conferences, you're on a lot of emails with people in this space. Like, where do you see this stuff going?
I think the way that the world is going right now with AI and things are being automated, the future of Mission 43 is, at least for the employment program, is doing what we do best with the human element still in it. That's never going to go away because it's so important. I've seen the way that the job market's been. Resumes, are they still important? Yes, absolutely. But I've seen it more going back towards like a human-centric job search. People want to have conversation because everything is so automated. There's so much, AI and having to do things without having conversation. We're going to keep that. That's not going anywhere. We're not going to automate, how we introduce folks, anything like that. It's all going to stay in the grassroots effort of keeping that personal touch of you reached out to us for help, which sometimes is very hard to do. It was hard for me to do. You reach out for help, we're going to get you the help in a way that we know best, and that is through the personalized service and service delivery that we know how to do.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. We're not gonna change how we do things. We know what works. We're gonna adapt as things need to be adapted and as we grow. But what I know works is helping people in a personalized way that still feels personal.
Yeah, that's good. I'm happy to hear that. No one likes to get on the get connected to the AI enabled chat and just have that be.
Well, a lot have done that. Yeah. A lot of some organizations have done that. Because it streamlines things and it optimizes things, and it's like, that's great. But if you're taking away the personalized element, I think it's not. I think that's not the way to do things.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm encouraged to hear that. So I hope you're right. Thanks, Zach.
Absolutely.
This was great. I think it's a super helpful resource. I think this is going to live for a long time, and people can look back at this and reference it for what they can look for, hopeful for Mission 43, or just looking for, I think just as your thoughts on the transition itself and looking for the job are invaluable. And people listen might not even realize if they haven't made the transition yet, but everything that you're talking about is stuff that is so important to hear and take on as you're starting that transition process. So I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah.
Real quick, just because we're here, we're in the Idaho Outdoor Fieldhouse. If you haven't been down to the Fieldhouse yet, the Idaho Outdoor Fieldhouse is the headquarters of Mission 43. It's a world-class facility. We're incredibly fortunate to be headquartered here alongside the Challenge Athletes Foundation of Idaho. This facility is open every day from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and you're able to, as a member of Mission 43, come in and have a conversation with anyone on our team who is here. So it can be someone on our employment team, our education team, our engagement team. It's half the time it's probably with me. We want you to come down here and see us and get to know us and learn about how to get involved. And I hopefully have a cup of coffee and sit and tell some old stories and stuff like that. So it's just a good time. The last thing I'll leave you with, just because we're talking about employment stuff, is if you're out there, if you're listening to this and in the job search and in this phase, and in that kind of rut, and you're talking to Zach and Micah and you're trying to stay in a positive mindset about it, I hope you're finding time to reconnect with the things that you're excited about, either post-transition or for the next season of what you're looking for in life. And I just encourage, hey, reconnect with the outdoors, reconnect with writing, with family, with whatever it is, and get yourself feeling good and centered on what's important, and don't The job stuff, we can help you out with that, and it's going to get there, and don't stress about it.
There's more to life than work.
There's more to life than work.
That's why you transition.
Even though that's what Zach has to talk about all day. That's why you transition. That's right. And that's why Idaho's a fantastic place to do it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back soon. It's going to be a big summer and fall here at Mission 43, 25th anniversary of 9/11, America 250, and the 10th anniversary of Mission 43. We couldn't be more excited. We're excited to bring you guys a lot of programming and opportunities to get engaged. I encourage you to just keep connecting with one another and stay out there doing good in the community. Thanks, and take care.